Hi everybody, welcome to the next video on recipes. It's kind of funny because I think it was 2 years ago now, I did a webinar on recipes and it's the most botched webinar I've ever done. You will not find it on the internet. Pretty sure I made sure that was deleted. And I just kind of failed talking about it. I messed up some stuff. Anyway, I was so embarrassed. And from that, that takeaway from that was I am going to learn how to talk about this topic. And so I just think it's so interesting now, going from that being one of my most embarrassing moments live with 50 people watching to now hey, let's make our first YouTube series about recipes because funny enough, it's now the topic I am the most comfortable talking about. Anyway, I just hope that's a little bit encouraging that you can take one of your most embarrassing moments and just turn it into something that's easy. It was a lot of work. I've made it my mission to learn, and even doing setting up for this video, I did something and I was I don't know why this is turning orange, had to read the release notes and I was oh, okay, now I understand it. And so it's just you use those things to kind of propel you forward. Anyway, sorry, quick story time because I love telling stories. Anyway, life is made of stories. So here we are. Let's talk about the story of recipes. Anyway, segue. So recipes, right? We can put them in two places. We already covered this, and we're just going to look a little bit deeper at both places and a little bit of the whys in using both. And obviously, there's no right or wrong way to use it. There are so many options, and you have to find what works for you. So I'm going to talk about a lot of the features. I don't necessarily use all of them. I'm going to tell you which ones I do and don't use, but this doesn't mean you should or shouldn't use them. Just because I don't do something doesn't mean you shouldn't do something. If it works better for your show and your workflow, do it. That's my encouragement. Right, so where do we find recipes and presets? We swipe on any preset and we go into edit settings. Now you'll notice I'm actually going to leave this window and swipe on a preset that already exists. This is not a recipe, right? This is just a preset. I can see that its name is red, it has stored global data in it, but all of these cells are black, right? This filter and matrix, this is not a recipe. I can turn this preset that already exists into a recipe. And actually, I'm going to do that with a phaser one just for example's sake. I'm going to copy this over here. We're going to play with this copy of it. So I turn this here, and as soon as I right-click where it says New Recipe here, or bottom right-hand corner, if I hit Turn into Recipe, they're going to do the exact same thing. I think I said this in the last video, but I'm going to stop saying that because we have to, someone told me once you have to hear things 3 times to really know them. So I'm going to stop apologizing for that. Turn into recipe is what I'll press here. And now these values that were in this preset are the values in this recipe line. So they're not referencing something outside of the recipe. They're referencing the values that were already within this preset. And that's why we have this little carrots with the recipe word in there. Anytime we see these little carrots within the desk, it's letting you know that it's referencing something else. And right, there's nothing else over here. But if I went ahead and put some phase values in here, right, those are in there. Anyway, but it doesn't have a selection, and this is why the recipe line is red, because there's nothing it can cook, right? There's no group or selection to use with the values, so it's not cookable, if that's a word. Anyway, as soon as I grab the spots grid group, you'll notice this goes white. This means that everything in this preset can be cooked. All the fixtures can be used with these values. So anyway, if I go and select this, now I can see my sine wave running across this. But like I said, this is values referenced inside this preset. This isn't coming from someplace else. Okay, quick example there. Let's delete, no, we don't have to delete this. We're just gonna clear it. Maybe we'll come back to it, maybe we won't. Anyway, so I'm going to edit this preset here, and we're actually going to do the same thing. We're going to turn it into recipe. I'm going to right-click here, show you that example instead. Exact same as turn into recipe. I'm going to set my selection to my spots grid again. You'll notice this is still red, right? There is nothing to cook yet, and it's letting you know, hey, I don't cook this, I'm red. Also, if I close out of this, I guess the pot is green. I don't know, maybe that should be red. Anyway, opinions. Values. We'll template phaser, and we're going to choose this dimmer sinus, and you'll notice it goes gray, right, because we can cook it. Anyway, same idea as this, and not exactly the same idea as this, right, because this is the universal phaser here. If I right-click, or if I double-click this, it grabs all the lights in the show, right, it's universal, runs the sine wave on all of them. However, clear this out, and I double-click this, it's only the lights that are within the group inside it. I can go ahead and turn on edit setting, and if you'll notice here, there's the M matrix window. I can grab any M matrix in the show, so phase 0 through 360. It's letting you know, hey, these carets here were referencing something. They're referencing the M matrix here. And same concept down here. This, like this bottom part, I don't know, I'm pointing at the screen, you can't see it. This bottom part here, this is just like the M matrix window. And up top here, this is exactly the same like information you're finding down here, except just displayed like an Excel spreadsheet, a little more like MA2, however you want to look at it. Anyway, so this M matrix, if I fill it in, it fills in all the information for you. If you don't fill it in, you still have the ability to come over here. I can set the phase to X360. You'll notice it automatically sets the from when you set the to. This works for any of these cells. And it fills it in down here because this literally is the same information. All right, now I clear this out. Boom, boom, boom. Double click this phaser again, and now the phase is running over. It looks great. However, this, like I said, is not the same as this, right? This has the selection in it. So kind of the power of using the recipe here is this allows me to have all of my base template phasers. Like template effects, a lot of us like have just taken the term and like now it's a template phaser. So you make these base phasers here, and then I say, okay, this is what my selection is. So it allows me to use groups that I already have as my selection. And I can use more than one group per phaser, and it kind of like lays it out in a really beautiful way. So I have my spots grid group here, but now let's say I want my LED wall here. You'll notice that as soon as I make these lines, it says, oh, hey, do you want the value that's in the line above it? Like, yeah, it's probably what I'm doing. So it kind of assumes that for you, and that's also really beautiful. I can right click here, let me add in my wash lights. So now I have all three of these groups with the selection order I want it to run over those groups in each line of the recipe. I can go ahead and label them if I so desire. And if you look over here, it did not pull this information down. I do still need to go and say, hey, 360. And this also allows, like, let's say I want it to run the opposite direction on my LED wall. Like I can go 360 to 0, and it's doing that all within one preset, but allowing me to kind of manipulate multiple different selections at once, but they're all referencing the same value. They can reference different values. That's like totally okay. I don't have an example for that at the moment, but I'm sure there's one out there. And there we go, now it's running. So this allows me to take this one preset here, and then I can store it into my queues, but like come back here if I want to like change the selection that that's referencing. Now, same idea here. I'm going to pop up here to my queues, and I have my queue already built. I'm going to add my recipe line here. We're going to look at the same thing. Spots gridded group, my value. I'm going to go for my template phaser here. We're going to look at the stimmer sinus, and I'm going to scroll on over. X, I have to turn on X. There we go. Scroll on over to phase 2X 360, and now I'm going to hit go on this queue. Go. And now it's running. Looks beautiful. I can go ahead, exact same concept here. I'm going to add multiple lines, but when you add multiple lines in a queue, it doesn't put the value down there for you of like what you had in the line above it. But there's this really cute option. I don't know. I think everything's cute, so apologize or don't mind me. I'm going to assign the stimmer sinus phaser here like this, swap a sign, click here, boom, it's there, and then I can go ahead and I can grab my other group. You can also assign groups in the exact same way I just did with the value. I just don't have a groups pool pulled up, so it didn't make sense for me. And there we go. Now it's running in a queue. Okay, great. Now what's the power of putting it in a queue or storing it in a preset? Now queues are a little more powerful, and I want to show you why. Off sequence 4. There we go. Okay, so I'm actually going to create a little group here. Let's see, group 2. I know, I use this file a lot. 1 through 8. All right, store group 100. So group 8. Those are just my spots there. Oh my goodness. I literally just stored it. Group 100. Those are just my 8 spots there, right? I have more spots, but I just want to show an example with less lights because we're going to go from less lights to more lights, and we're going to kind of look at a little bit of what's different here. So I know that group 100 is the one I'm looking for. So we're going to edit this preset here, and we're going to turn this into a recipe. We're going to pop down here to group 100, and we're going to go, the value is our dimmer sinus template phaser, And obviously, let's add a little bit of phase because that's the wrong cell. Phase. Add a little bit of phase. Boom. Okay. This is now running across my lights. It looks beautiful, whatever. Let's delete Q1 for my example. And then I'm going to take these values that I just activated and I'm going to store Q1. All right, so I can see with the parentheses around here that this is referencing the stimmer sinus recipe. And we're going to hit go on the Q. Okay, cool, awesome, love it, looks great. Now, let's say this is venue number 1. We're at some club. We had 8 fixtures. It was beautiful. Now we're at venue number 2. We have 13 fixtures. We're really stepping up in the world in our, our little club shows that we're doing at the moment on our little demo show rig. And now I'm going to go in here and I'm going to edit this, and we're going to change this to my group that has the spots gridded group. This is going to be all 13 fixtures. Boom. Okay, looks great. Looks awesome. It's running in the programmer. I've done my job. Let's hit go, and that's not what's happening in our queue. Aha, love it. Actually, I don't love it. I want all 13 fixtures there. I thought this was going to be easier. It is, but that's not how I programmed it. At the moment, if I wanted to get this information into the queue, I would have to clone fixture 1 at fixture 9 if sequence 4. Oh no, you have to clone all the fixtures. So we'd have to clone all of our fixtures anyway. I don't feel like cloning right now. That's great. So anyway, you still have to clone, blah, blah, blah. That's the kind of the point of this. So let's delete Q1, start over, store Q1. Now instead, here's the example here. We're going to put this recipe right into the queue. So change my selection to group 100, my value to sinus here, and obviously add a little phase for some flair, and we hit go. Great, 8 fixtures. This is night 1. Looks beautiful, but I programmed with recipes in my queues this time. So now, night 2. I can go ahead and I can update group 100. Let's actually use that as our example. So queue is running. I'm going to grab group 2 because I know that's all 13 fixtures. I'm going to store group 100. Overwrite. Boom. As soon as I did that, check it out. My queue is still running out of those other 5 fixtures. Looks great. This is a quick way of updating your queues from night to night, but it only works if your recipe lines are in the queue itself. Anyway, I think we'll stop there for today. I already feel like I said a lot, and I'm really excited to take this to the next level. Obviously, it gets more fun as we get more complicated and we look at more examples together. So come back soon.